I want you to think about the last time you were truly silent. Not just quiet, not just waiting for your turn to speak, not scrolling in silence while noise fills your mind. I mean truly, completely, deliberately silent. For most men, they cannot remember, because the modern world has made silence the one thing most men are terrified of. We fill every gap with noise. Music, podcasts, television, scrolling, talking, reacting. Anything to avoid the one thing that the greatest philosopher in Chinese history said was the source of all wisdom. Over 2,500 years ago, Confucius taught his students something about silence that went so deep, so far beyond simply keeping quiet, that most of his own followers struggled to fully grasp it. And today, in a world drowning in noise, that teaching may be the most important thing a man can learn. The student who learned by saying nothing. Among all the students who sat at the feet of Confucius, and there were many, some brilliant, some bold, some eager, there was one who stood apart from all the rest. His name was Yan Hui. Yan Hui was not the loudest student. He was not the most argumentative. He did not rush to demonstrate his cleverness or challenge the master with difficult questions the way the other students did. Yan Hui was silent. He listened. He absorbed. He sat with the teachings long after others had moved on to something else. And Confucius, the greatest teacher in Chinese history, said of Yan Hui, "I have talked with Hui for a whole day, and he has not made any objection to anything I said, as if he was stupid. He has retired, and I have examined his conduct when away from me, and found him able to illustrate my teachings. Hui is not stupid." Do you understand what Confucius was saying? He was saying the student who appeared to do the least was actually doing the most. The student who spoke the least was absorbing the most. The student who seemed empty was actually the most full. In the ancient wisdom of Confucius, silence was not the absence of activity, it was the highest form of it. Silence is not empty, it is where wisdom lives. The first thing Confucius taught about silence is something so counterintuitive that the modern mind almost refuses to accept it. Silence is not empty. Silence is full. We have been conditioned to believe that productivity looks like motion, that intelligence looks like speaking, that engagement looks like reacting. A man who is quiet at a dinner table is considered withdrawn. A man who pauses before answering is considered slow. A man who chooses not to share his opinion is considered to have none. Confucius saw this completely differently. In the Analects, the collected teachings of Confucius compiled by his students, he wrote, "The man who speaks without thinking is lost. The man who thinks without speaking is found." He understood that the interior world of a man, his thoughts, his reflections, his ability to sit with difficulty and uncertainty without immediately reacting, was where real intelligence was built. Consider the river. A shallow river is loud. It rushes over rocks, splashes, babbles, creates constant noise. A deep river moves in almost complete silence. Its power is invisible from the surface, but nothing can stop it. Confucius was describing two types of men. The shallow man who makes tremendous noise, full of opinions, reactions, arguments, and performances. And the deep man whose silence contains more power than the shallow man's lifetime of noise. In the modern world, social media has turned every man into a shallow river. Every thought must be posted. Every reaction must be shared. Every opinion must be broadcast to an audience that mostly does not care and quickly forgets. The man who learns to be the deep river, who keeps his power beneath the surface, becomes the most formidable force in any room he enters. Silence is how you actually listen. Confucius said, When you know a thing, to hold that you know it, and when you do not know a thing, to allow that you do not know it. This is knowledge. There is a profound humility embedded in this teaching, and it connects directly to silence. Most men are not listening when someone else is speaking. They are waiting. They are preparing their response. They are looking for the gap where they can insert their own opinion, their own experience, their own correction. They are physically present, but mentally absent. Their body is in the room. Their mind is already composing the next sentence. Confucius taught his students that real listening, deep listening, requires the complete silencing of the inner voice, the voice that judges, the voice that compares, the voice that rehearses, the voice that says, "I already know this. I disagree with this. I have a better story than this." Until that inner voice goes quiet, you are not listening at all. You are performing the act of listening while actually waiting for your own turn to speak. Yan Hui, the beloved student, was able to sit with Confucius for an entire day and absorb every teaching without interruption, without objection, without the need to prove his understanding through words. He let the teachings fully enter him, and then he went home and lived them. In the modern world, think about what it would mean to truly listen to the people in your life. Your wife, your children, your business partner, your mentor. What would change if instead of preparing your response, you simply went silent and let their words fully reach you? Confucius understood that the man who masters silence masters the art of truly knowing other people. And the man who knows people is the most powerful man in any room. Silence reveals what words conceal. One of the most remarkable teachings in the Confucian tradition is this, and it is one that very few people fully understand. Silence does not just receive information, silence extracts it. Confucius observed that when a man is met with silence, genuine, unhurried, unafraid silence, he will almost always fill that silence himself. And what he chooses to fill it with reveals far more about his true character, his true motivations, and his true fears than anything he would say in normal conversation. The ancient Chinese strategists understood this as a negotiation weapon of extraordinary power. In any discussion, whether a business deal, a diplomatic meeting, or a personal confrontation, the man who is comfortable with silence holds the power. Because the man who is uncomfortable with silence will keep speaking, and the man who keeps speaking will eventually say too much. He will reveal his bottom line. He will confess his insecurity. He will expose the weakness in his argument. He will talk himself into a worse position simply because he could not tolerate the discomfort of quiet. Confucius wrote, "Clever talk and a pretentious manner are seldom found in the truly virtuous." He was not saying that eloquent men are dishonest. He was saying that the man who constantly performs his intelligence through words, who needs to be heard, who needs to impress, is usually covering something. An insecurity, a fear, an absence of the inner substance he is performing outwardly. The truly virtuous man, in Confucian teaching, has nothing to prove. And the man who has nothing to prove has no need to fill silence with words. Your silence speaks louder than your words ever could. Because silence says, "I am not afraid. I am not rushing. I do not need your approval. And I already know what I know." The three silences Confucius described. In the Analects, Confucius identified three distinct types of silence, and understanding all three is essential to understanding his complete teaching on this subject. The first silence, the silence of observation. Confucius said, "I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand." But before the seeing and the doing, there must be the watching. The patient, quiet watching of how things actually work. Before a man speaks his opinion on a situation, he must first observe it fully. Most men speak first and observe later, if at all. The wise man watches first, speaks only when his observation is complete, and by then his words carry the weight of truth. The second silence, the silence of self-reflection. Confucius taught, "I daily examine myself on 3 points. Whether in transacting business for others I may have been not faithful. Whether in intercourse with friends I may have been not sincere. Whether I may have not mastered and practiced the instructions of my teacher." This daily examination required silence, radical inner silence. The kind where a man sits with his own failures without excuse, without self-pity, and without distraction. The Confucian scholar was a man in constant conversation with himself, not the chattering, anxious inner voice of the undisciplined mind, but the clear, honest voice that emerges only in genuine silence. The third silence, the silence of restraint. Confucius said, "When you know a thing, hold that you know it, and when you do not know a thing, to allow that you do not know it. This is knowledge." The silence of restraint is the discipline of not speaking when you do not have something worth saying. It is the refusal to fill silence with noise simply because silence is uncomfortable. It is the courage to say nothing, when saying nothing is the most powerful thing you can do. Master all 3 silences, and you will move through the world with a clarity, a power, and a presence that most men spend their entire lives searching for and never find. What silence does to your mind that nothing else can. Modern neuroscience has now confirmed what Confucius understood intuitively 2,500 years ago. Silence is not passive. Silence is one of the most active and productive states a human brain can enter. When the brain is in a state of genuine silence, when external stimulation is removed and the internal chatter begins to slow, the brain activates what scientists call the default mode network. This is the part of the brain responsible for self-reflection, creative insight, long-term planning, and the integration of complex information. In other words, silence is when your brain does its deepest and most important work. The great ideas do not come while you are consuming, they come while you are being still. The solutions to your hardest problems do not emerge from frantic activity, they surface in quiet. Confucius wrote, "Learning without thought is labor lost. Thought without learning is perilous." The modern man consumes endlessly, but thinks almost never. He reads articles, watches videos, listens to podcasts, absorbs information at an unprecedented rate, and retains almost none of it. Because he never goes silent long enough for his mind to process and integrate what he has taken in, it is like eating enormous meals and never digesting them. The food becomes waste instead of fuel. The Confucian practice was this: read, then sit in silence and reflect on what you read. Listen, then sit in silence and let what you heard settle into understanding. Learn, then be still, and allow the learning to become wisdom. Information without silence becomes noise, but information processed in silence becomes wisdom, and wisdom is the rarest and most valuable thing a man can possess. Why silence makes you magnetic. Here is something that Confucius observed about silent men that will seem almost magical until you experience it yourself. People are drawn to the silent man, powerfully, inexplicably, almost involuntarily. Walk into any room. Notice how much noise fills the space. Everyone talking, laughing, performing, competing for attention. And then, notice the man in the corner who says almost nothing, who observes, who occasionally speaks, and when he does, the room goes quiet to listen. Why does the room go quiet for him? Because silence creates anticipation. When a man does not speak constantly, every word he does speak carries weight. The mind of everyone in the room has been conditioned by his silence to lean in when he opens his mouth. Confucius said, "The superior man is Catholic and no partisan. The mean man is partisan and not Catholic." The superior man, the Junzi in Confucian philosophy, is expansive. He is not locked into a fixed position. He is not defending an ego. He is not attached to being right. Because he is not attached to his own words, he can sit in silence and consider all perspectives before he speaks. And when he speaks, because he has considered all perspectives, what he says is more true, more complete, and more useful than anything the noisy man who spoke first could have offered. In relationships, the silent man is the one people trust with their deepest truths. Because he has demonstrated that he does not broadcast what he knows. He does not leak. He does not gossip. He does not perform. The silent man becomes the keeper of secrets, the trusted advisor, the man people seek out when they need real wisdom rather than fast noise. That is a kind of social power that money cannot buy and performance cannot manufacture. When you are right and you say nothing. Now we come to the teaching that separates the men who intellectually understand Confucius from the men who have actually mastered what he taught. The hardest silence is not the silence of not knowing. The hardest silence is the silence of knowing and choosing not to speak. Someone says something incorrect in a meeting. You know the right answer. Every impulse in your body wants to correct them, to demonstrate your knowledge, to establish your superiority, to feel the satisfaction of being right in public. Confucius said, "When it is obvious that the goals cannot be reached, don't adjust the goals, adjust the action steps." And one of the most important action steps a wise man adjusts is the impulse to prove himself right. The Confucian teaching is this: ask yourself before you speak, why am I about to say this? Is it to genuinely help? Is it to add true value to this conversation? Or is it to feed my ego, to feel superior, to be seen as smart? If the honest answer is ego, stay silent. Let the moment pass. Let the other man be wrong if he needs to be. The energy you spend correcting people who do not want to be corrected is energy stolen from the work that actually matters. Confucius himself practiced this with extraordinary discipline. When asked about subjects he considered beneath genuine inquiry, or when speaking would serve no true purpose, he remained completely silent. Not from weakness, not from ignorance, but from the iron discipline of a man who had mastered his own tongue. The man who can be right and choose silence anyway has conquered one of the deepest impulses of the human ego. And that conquest is one of the clearest marks of genuine wisdom. The silence of Confucius in daily life. All of this wisdom means nothing without practice. Confucius was above all else a practical teacher. He was not interested in philosophy for its own sake. He was interested in how men actually lived. So here is how you bring the silence of Confucius into your actual daily life, starting today. Practice 1. The morning silence. Before you touch your phone in the morning, before you speak a word to anyone, sit in complete silence for 10 minutes. Do not meditate. Do not try to clear your mind. Simply sit. Let the thoughts come. Let them pass. Watch them the way you would watch clouds move across a sky. This practice alone, done consistently, will begin to build the deep river that Confucius described. Practice 2. The pause before speaking. In every conversation today, before you respond to anything, pause for 3 seconds. 3 seconds of silence before every response. It sounds small. It is not small. Those 3 seconds are enough time to ask yourself, is what I am about to say true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? If the honest answer to any of those 3 is no, stay silent. Practice 3. The evening reflection. Every evening, before you sleep, sit in silence and ask yourself the 3 questions that Confucius taught his student Zhengzi to ask daily. Was I faithful in my work today? Was I sincere in my relationships today? Did I practice what I have been taught? 3 questions, answered in silence, answered honestly, without excuse and without self-punishment. Just the clean, clear accounting of a man who is committed to becoming. These 3 practices, morning silence, the pause, and evening reflection, are the ancient Confucian technology of self-mastery. Simple, free, available to any man, and almost never actually practiced. Let me bring you back to Yan Hui, the student who sat in silence, who listened without objecting, who absorbed without performing, who went home and lived the teachings rather than talking about them. Confucius, who loved many students, loved Yan Hui above all others. When Yan Hui died young, Confucius wept with a grief that shocked everyone around him. He said, "Heaven has bereft me. Heaven has bereft me." The greatest teacher who ever lived mourned most deeply the student who spoke the least. There is a version of you, a wiser, deeper, more powerful version, that is buried beneath the noise you have allowed to fill your life. The notifications, the opinions, the performances, the constant need to be heard, seen, validated, and understood. That version of you does not need any of that. He is already full. He is already still. He listens more than he speaks. He observes more than he reacts. He knows that his silence is not weakness. It is the deepest source of his strength. Confucius knew this man. He loved this man. And he spent his entire life trying to teach the world how to become him. Start tonight. 10 minutes of silence. No phone, no music, no input. Just you, and the silence that has been waiting for you. If this teaching moved something inside you, subscribe to The Bearded Scholar right now. Every single week we go deep into the ancient wisdom that the modern world has forgotten, and bring it back to life in a way that can actually change how you think, how you move, and how you build your life. And drop a comment below. Tell me, what is the one area of your life where you need to practice more silence right now? I read every single comment personally. Stay silent. Stay wise. Keep building. This is The Bearded Scholar.